What is up, everyone? This is Jeff from Jeff Needs Sports, and this is 15 minutes on college football. What's up, everyone? As we know, the first college football playoff rankings from the official committee came out Tuesday night. I'm a college football guy, eat, sleep, breathe it, the whole 9 yards. So I just want to kind of give my instant reaction, go through the top 10 and discuss, what they got right, what they got wrong, and kind of break this thing down for you leading into the future. So, first of all, go check out Off the Ball Network for all the great creators, the podcast, the writers, the articles, everything. Check out Jeff Needs Sports anywhere you get podcasts. So here we go. Number one, Georgia. They had to be number one. I don't think they're as head and shoulders above everybody else, but that really doesn't matter. Essentially, with who they put at number two, they got kind of a hall pass. As long as Georgia finishes the rest of the season, they don't have a super tough schedule, especially based on their talent. They get the SEC championship game and lose, they're still win. So Georgia, outside of a probably once in a decade, maybe once in a 2-decade upset, is in. To Alabama. This is the first one right now the committee got totally wrong. They put them way too high. All this doesn't even help Alabama as much as it helps Georgia, because what this does to Georgia is the worst thing Georgia can do, assuming again there's not a once in a couple decade upset, is lose to the number 2 team in the country in the SEC championship game. So it really helped out Georgia. I don't see the sense in putting them here. We'll talk about it later, but I have no problem giving Alabama a chance at the playoffs. They're a really good team. They're not the world beater like they were last year. But the fact of the matter is they could have brought them in at 6 or 5, and then because Alabama has to beat Georgia to get in, or Alabama has to win the SEC championship. Oh yeah, Georgia's in it. So Alabama has to beat Georgia to get in. I don't see the reason to put them at 2. That makes no sense to me. Put Alabama at 5 or 6. And then if they don't beat Georgia, then you don't have to worry about it. Then everybody knows where they stand. So I didn't like that one at all. I really thought that was a huge, that was a big, kiss on the cheek to Alabama. It's not an SEC bias thing. It just wasn't the right position, for Bama. Because if Bama loses to Georgia, they're going to drop them out. But why deal with that until the last week? I don't know. 3, Michigan State. This was an easy one for them. Undefeated, huge conference team, a great win over Michigan, last week, which everybody considers, a really good team. So that's their big win. And also they know that going forward, Michigan State has, a schedule that will figure it out. If any of the 3 teams, the top 3 teams in the Big Ten East, don't lose the rest of the way, they're in. So you put the highest ranked one first, and then you work your way down. This was an easy one. It'll work itself out. I don't have a problem with putting Michigan State here. It doesn't ruin anything. It doesn't change anything. I'm fine with it. This is the one that was kind of an easy one. For Oregon. This is one where this is as high as Oregon could have possibly hoped for. Everything is based on a win in Columbus 2 months ago. They looked really good in that game. Everybody in the world knows that wasn't the best Ohio State team that they were going to get. That doesn't change it. Ohio State was healthy and they were ready to go that game. They got beat by Oregon at home. That factors in. Oregon, here's what I don't like what they did to Oregon. And it's not here's the thing. The committee talks out both sides of the face, whether they factor in or not. So now Oregon's basically on a chopping block because their schedule remaining is pretty weak. The Pac-12 is not represented at all in the top 25 outside of Oregon. So Oregon is the one team that can do their best, win out, and still get left out of the playoffs. So they really kind of set them up for failure. But again, at 4, this is as high as Oregon can hope. At 5, the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is a little too high. Every team under number 1 is probably a spot too high at least. the Buckeyes are in the same position as Michigan State. This is as high as the Buckeyes could hope for. They don't have a dominant victory against a decent team. They really just don't. I mean, the Penn State was a good team, and it was a sloppy win. They could have been a blowout or whatever. They easily could have beat Oregon. They did not, clearly did not. They're not holding that loss against them as much as they are other teams. This is where the committee gets a little confusing. But Ohio State at 5, like as an Ohio State fan, as an Ohio State podcaster, we have zero to complain about. Ohio State fans have zero to complain about. They've got they've still got 2 top 10 teams left on their schedule, plus a Big Ten championship game, which by then Ohio State's in fine position. They couldn't have asked for anything better than this. And number 6, now here's the first team that really just took a screwing from the committee. They put Cincinnati at 6. Now, Cincinnati came into the season, with expectations to make the playoffs. They've done everything they could do. They've got the big win at Notre Dame, which Notre Dame rebounded from that loss, and Notre Dame still looks like a really good team. And right now they're a top 10 team. We'll talk about them here in a minute. So I don't mind the fact that they've got Cincinnati 6, because do I think that Cincinnati beats the rest of the top 5? Definitely. In a playoff game? No, I don't. But my point is the committee didn't tell us that. The committee should say that in the summer, like, well, here's the criteria. Here's what we're going to hold against you, all this. They did not do that. They let us believe that being undefeated was really important, which we're going to talk about a team here in a minute. Apparently not. And then they really set up Cincinnati for failure. So now what I don't like about this, and here's the biggest problem that they had, drop Bama to 6 and put Cincinnati at 2. And I think everybody would agree with it. And the scenarios are all still the same. Bama has to win out. Cincinnati has to win out and look good. You've at least now you've put Cincinnati in the position to where they have to try and blow teams out, and they have to watch the people above them. And that is not what it's supposed to be. So all the everything takes care of itself thing, I don't like, because that's not how it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be where you're at right now in the season, not don't worry about it. This is how it's going to play out the rest of the year. So I did not like what they did to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is forced to watch the scoreboard. If it's the fourth quarter now, Cincinnati doesn't really have the option to rest the guy if things are going really good, because my gosh, 7 points here or there could cost them a playoff berth. It's just a weird situation they put them in. I see no reason why they couldn't have flip-flop Alabama and Cincinnati. We still have the same season. Every game means the same. And I guess put it this way, they could have screwed Cincinnati last week of the season. Man, I have no. Fickle was really salty today. He came at the committee chairman and all that. I don't blame him. It's emotional. He's an emotional guy. He's standing up for his team, and now essentially they're put in a position to beg and try to blow lesser teams out. The SMU loss really hurt them last week, but Cincinnati took the almost the worst of it. But they're not dead, as Mo Murphy from Up in Flames told me. But their destiny is not in their own hands, as we like to say in sports, which if you know anything about destiny, it's never in your own hands. Stay there or there. So Michigan at number 7. This is perfect. This is the one that they nailed. Michigan has looked really good. They've done everything. They had a 16-point lead on Michigan State, which they didn't hold against Michigan State. That's fine. So if we're going to call Michigan State number 2, Michigan had them on the ropes. They didn't win, but they didn't look silly doing it. I think number 7 for Michigan is fine. If they're a spot too high or spot too low, I really don't care. They're in a good position. They went out, they're in. That's where Michigan's out. They went out. They're going to beat Penn State, assuming. I guess I shouldn't say that. If they went out, they're not necessarily in. If Ohio State and Michigan State. Okay, if Ohio State doesn't lose when Michigan plays them, and then they get to beat them, and then they get to win the Big Ten championship game there. So Michigan, I'm sorry, I confused the two because I don't like either one of them. Michigan's in good shape. That's the short story. So at number 8, now here's where things went crazy, and because they announced these in backwards order, of course, Oklahoma at number 8. And at first, at knee jerk, everyone's like, well, yeah, it's Oklahoma. They've done this. We watched the Kansas game, watched the Tulane game. We've seen the Heisman contender get benched, all these things. And then we forget that Oklahoma came into the season, ranked in the top 4 and are undefeated. And now they're eighth going into this. Now, the good news to Oklahoma is they have really good game. They have the good games left. They got Baylor and Oklahoma State left on the schedule. They've got Iowa State, all these things to take care of themselves, but unprecedented to put a power conference, major conference team, blue blood team, undefeated at number 8. This was the one that I don't care who you are, this shook things up. It just doesn't make any sense. And now they put Oklahoma in a position. What I don't like about this is Oklahoma doesn't have teams that they play above them. So I don't know how they move up outside of wins and stuff. Now, is the committee going to knee jerk and move Oklahoma up 4 spots if they beat Oklahoma State? I don't have any idea what their thought process was here, but we just never seen a blue blood team treated like this. I don't care what you think of Oklahoma. Again, the criteria was not given to us. We were never told that we don't care if you're undefeated, because this is where it gets messy. The crowd that's coming, at us saying, Cincinnati's done everything they could. They're undefeated. They ought to be higher. Okay, then Oklahoma should be too. That same crowd's like, well, Oklahoma's look like crap. Then like, okay, well, then Cincinnati wants to forget the Navy and Tulane game. This is how this works. And I understand some of the problems with the committee, but they could have avoided a lot of the future problems by giving these teams a chance to fail rather than making them earn it. So what my guess is the committee is going to do is just leapfrog people the rest of the season. I don't know if they're doing it for fun. I don't know if it's to prove a point about they need more teams in the playoffs. I have no idea what's going on, but I know for a fact that Oklahoma in any other year, any other time, is not ranked 8th in the country right now. At this point in the season, it's crazy. Number 9, Wake Forest, my favorite team of the year so far. This is a team that, here we go again. If you're telling me Cincinnati's number 2, then I guess Wake Forest is number 3 because they're doing the same thing. I understand the Notre Dame. It's all how much you like Notre Dame is how much you care about Cincinnati. That's a whole different discussion. But Wake Forest is as high as they could possibly hope for. If it was Clemson, we have them up. The thing about Wake Forest is they can finish the season and not play and not have a win against a top 25 team, which is insane. So they're doing their part. They're fun to watch. They had a shootout with Army a couple weeks ago. But I don't think they have anything to lose. And it would be really, really, really interesting to see if Wake Forest can finish this out. I think they'll lose to North Carolina, and then this will all be a moot point. But I would love to see them finish this out and see what the committee has to tell Wake Forest of why, if Clemson's undefeated, they're guaranteed in. If North Carolina's undefeated, they're guaranteed in. And all of a sudden, Wake Forest, no, not you. But then what we do with Cincinnati. So this is really a fun team. I like the way they're playing. Good for Wake Forest. At number 10, you want to talk about being in a friend zone. You got Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is a really good team. I really thought they were going to fall off after the Cincinnati loss. The quarterbacks got healthy and they kind of figured it out. They are a solid team. They can play with. They can honestly keep it. They can play with anybody in the country, especially if they're right. They're a tough team. No downside. Here's the problem. They do not have an extra game. They don't have a championship game this year. They're not in the ACC. When their season's over, it's over. Notre Dame at number 10. I don't even see a path. It would be one of the most catastrophic, crazy seasons ever to see Notre Dame possibly crawl into the top 4 based on schedules remaining, conference championship games and all that. And so this is another one. This is another position to where they've said, you need to be in a conference, one of our conferences. We know that the powers that be run this thing, TV networks and so forth. So they basically told Notre Dame, well, I don't know, you're welcome to have your own network and all that and take that money, but you're going to get punished on the back end if you don't go undefeated every year and look great doing it. I do not see a world where Notre Dame jumps higher than maybe 7, 6. It doesn't even matter. I don't care if they get to 5. if you're at 5 with no chance to get to 4, then who really cares? So Notre Dame's a good team that I really don't feel has a chance at the college football playoffs this year, and they were in it last year. So that's it. That's my take on it. Just you want to get that out there. We've done a lot of work in the Off the Ball Network with this. So once again, go check us out. Mo Murphy from Up in Flames did a great show last night. We got way more into this, spent some more time, had some great guests on. So again, everybody, Jeff Needs Sports. Anywhere you need podcasts, find the Off the Ball Network podcast, anywhere you get podcasts, and find the offtheballnetwork.com. And, check us out on Twitter and every other place. We're here for you. We love you guys. Have a great week. And I can't wait to see how this college football season turns out, y'all.